Gore-Tex and sweats. I make tracks like I'm homeless.
I guess I got that from my grandfather. He was a judge, and I remember going to his house once because the families were not, for whatever reason, weren't close. And I remember going to his house, and he had one huge wall in the dining room painted like a apricot pink, but it was a deep color, almost like fuchsia. And silver. I mean, you could see this was sterling silver stuff. His father had sent him to the United States to go to law school. And in those days, there were no planes, just boats. I don't know why, but the boat stopped in Mexico, which same thing happened with my father. He stowed away on the ship and got off in Mexico and went up in the mountains and how are you? And the guy said, go back on the ship, you'll be safer there than here. So he stayed in Mexico for a while. When the ship left, he left. My grandfather, he stayed in Mexico for 2 years. And the women, he said, gorgeous. So his buddy comes up, because it was a whole set of students from the West Indies that were sent here to go to school.
Now, this is from Grenada?
No, Barbados.
Barbados, okay.
His buddy comes up and he says, your father said he's not hearing from you. He was in New York in no time. Because in those days, you didn't have as much communication as quickly as here. You sent a letter, you might get another one 6 months or whatever. So he assumed that he was already in college, not knowing that he was playing
in Mexico.
And you come to think of it, Auntie's father did the same thing. His mother's, Auntie's grandmother sent his father to Trinidad. No, the plane had to leave from Grenada to Trinidad to come to the States. So he goes into Trinidad and forgets that that's not his final destination. So what happened was she went to Trinidad, and my mother-in-law was not a person to put it nice, disappoint. Eventually came up here, and that's how I met him. Well, I remember my mother used to say, and she said this when I was very young, and I didn't like it. She says, history repeats itself. And when I think back of the different things that have happened in my life, it has happened the first generation back, the second generation back,
wow.
On even my husband's side of the family. Nothing you can do, you just, take it.
So where were you born?
I was born in Harlem, in New York.
All right.
When Harlem was Harlem.
Really? Tell me about that.
You could walk the streets at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, male or female, and nobody was going to bother you at all. I was young, so a lot of things that I saw, I retained them, but I didn't understand what was going on. And I can remember sitting at my mother's friend's house and crossing my legs like that. No.
Really?
You cross them at the ankle. That was it. And if you sit here and make the mistake of playing with the doilies, you were told about it. You were not supposed to do that.
Wow.
You had, sit like this, and they're talking, and you keep your mouth shut because you want to hear everything, and they don't realize you still sit there.
You listening? Yeah.
Catching the conversation. But Harlem was different. I remember the Teresa Hotel. Well,
yeah,
okay. There used to be a lot of Holy Roly church. I call them Holy Roly churches. And I can remember that after leaving my mother's church on a Sunday, for some reason, she liked to go to these churches. And it just wasn't my thing. And I would get scared, when the women took care of. And of course, as a child, you're put in the back someplace. So I would go downstairs and stand. It was always in a loft. the churches were always in a loft.
Really?
Yes. My grandfather's office was in a loft. And I remember that, and I will never forget it. Going up the steps, usually the steps are made of tin. Not the tin today, but it's an ornamental type of tin because it made a funny noise when you walked up the steps. And you get to the top landing, and then you walk into this office. And I don't know why I remember that scene so well, but it was years later. I looked at the back of a picture that my mother had taken of my brother, myself, and her that day. And I put everything together. And the photographer that took that picture is in, what do you call it? Dictionary of Artists or Encyclopedia of Artists. His name, it was a Dutch name, black guy with a Dutch name.
Really?
And I have it somewhere.
I would love to see that. That would be awesome.
Because when I looked at the back of the picture and I saw the name, and I remember, gee, I saw that name in the art class, and I put two and together, and the reason why we had taken the picture that day was an even bigger occasion, but I never talked about it. I remember the outfit I had on.
Really?
It was a yellow and green plaid suit that my mother had made.
Really?
She made every stitch of clothes that we wore, but you never knew they didn't come out.
My mother used to make my clothes when I was growing up. Well, she used to make the shirts and everything. And I remember that, and I noticed that no one does that,
No.
and it's really striking.
And I remember the dress she had on. She had a big bust, and she had a dress with a
Cameo?
cameo light right there. I still have the cameo
Wow.
to this day. It was a long sleeve dress. I must look for the pictures, show
Wow.
them to you. And she had a lot of hair, and in those days they wore it in a pompadour, and then the rest. Yeah. And my brother was in the picture. I think I was about 8 years old.
And still vivid.
As clear because my grandmother was with us. And I didn't know it at the time. Can you turn that off for a second?
Sure.
Some Gore-Tex and sweats, I make tracks like I'm homeless.